Running Up the Score.
You're listening to the Running Up the Score podcast. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
What is up? Running Up the Score. We are back. Jerry Napoleonello, Kevin Donlin. We are here to talk some football. We got a lot to go in this show, and I'm excited. We're getting close to the end of the season, which is crazy. This season feels like it's just flying by. And we have an extra game, too. On top of that, you would think that the season would feel long, but that is not true this year. This year is flying by. We are already in Week 15. Week 15 starts tonight. We got Thursday Night Football, Chiefs-Chargers, division game. Excited for that one. But we got other stuff to talk about. And we weren't going to start the show with this, but it came out last night at about midnight that the Jaguars are moving on from Urban Meyer. And to be honest with you, not surprised. Not surprised one bit. It's been a absolute circus in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's it's a concept of what we've talked about before, where you've got college coaches that are treating grown men as if they're children, and it's very tough to get your locker room to have your back when you treat them like that. And it's obviously some of the things he had done were in joking matters, and trying to have like a nice little repertoire within the locker room. But honestly, it comes down to the fact that he was continuously treating these men as if they were boys, and there's no other sign of disrespect coming as you get older and more mature for someone to talk to you as if you're a child. And I don't think he understood that concept. I felt like he still needed to learn. These players needed to obviously learn more. He felt like he needed to teach more, but his concept and his demeanor on how he did it was just, at times inappropriate. And obviously, what he had even done off the field had been a question mark as well. So for Urban Meyer, I think it's time to head back to the college ranks. I think it's time to, honestly, at this rate, keep a low profile wherever you do decide to go. This was a disaster from the very start from Jacksonville. Jacksonville paid him a lot of money, and now they're stuck paying him that money regardless. I mean, you see that he got fired, but he don't care. I mean, why would he care? I mean, I wouldn't. If it's just, going off of, just human instincts, if I can make millions of dollars and be out in 1 year, I'd do it in a heartbeat. There wouldn't be a question to that. But for him, obviously, there's no, he don't care at all. I guarantee you that. But Jacksonville's in a terrible state. You got a young quarterback, and to have a young quarterback go through something like that already, we're changing, an entire system when you change your coach, and you're going to have your rookie quarterback dealing with that early on. It's a terrible situation, and this is coming from a Jet fan, and we know we've done this before with rookie quarterbacks and changing the personnel around them, changing the offensive coordinator, changing the head coach, changing the system. It becomes a big issue for a quarterback that's just trying to learn and get better.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a dumpster fire from the beginning. I mean, this just came out recently, I think actually today, that Urban Meyer was, calling the special teamers by, their position, saying, oh, hey, kicker, or hey, punter, hey, long snapper, whatever it is, calling them all kinds of, like, curses, and then also ended up kicking Josh Lambo while he was stretching during preseason. Basically walked up to him, called him a curse word, and kicked him and said, how about you don't miss this kick now? And it wasn't like a hard kick. He rated it a 5 out of 10, But still, like you were saying, he was treating these, men as, they were 18-year-olds. Like, that's not, you can't do that in the NFL. Most of the team makes more than you do. You can't treat these guys like that. And this isn't college. You can't do that now. And which is, crazy to think now. It's like, all right, well, how is he actually treating these college kids when he was down at, Ohio State, or I think he was at Utah State as well? Like, what was he doing? That's like eye-opening, really, because these kids are already, they're trying to get into the NFL, so they're not going to put themselves in a position where, there could be some kind of dispute, between the team and the coach, whatever it is. So it's kind of scary to think like what this guy is actually doing to college kids when he was coaching the college kids. But that's not going to fly in the NFL. And to see Urban Meyer back in the NFL, I don't think you're going to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. Enough is enough, really. And it all happened in, a little bit more than half a season. You have the whole situation where he didn't board the flight home with the team because he wanted to stay back at his restaurant in Ohio, and then ends up, getting photographed, getting like a lap dance or whatever it was. Like this, it's just been a dumpster fire since then. And then, just recently, the stuff that's going on with him, where the whole thing came out in the news, and he basically said if that person is, whoever said that is going to be fired or whatever it was. It's just, it was a constant thing. And then on top of it, you're 2-11, so it didn't go well. It wasn't a good stop in the NFL for Urban Meyer. And that's really all it was. It's going to be a flyby because he drove by, stayed a little bit, and now he's turning around right back around to probably the college football ranks.
Probably Florida.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But moving on to some actual good NFL news, or not so good for the rest of the NFL. Kansas City, I feel, is back, and really everybody should be worried because not only and really they're not even doing it on the offensive side. And this is the thing. We were talking about Kansas City earlier in the season where we were like, you know what? Not only does Patrick Mahomes have the most interceptions in the league, but their defense can't stop a nosebleed. And that was the scary thing when it comes to Kansas City is, maybe they're not going to make it back. And then they turn it around like they are. I mean, I think they're averaging 10 points a game, 10 points allowed per game the last 6 or 7 games. That's scary for a team that has offensive power as the Kansas City Chiefs do, and they're not even playing at their full potential. So you mesh those two together, it's kind of like their Super Bowl run. Their defense wasn't great. They get into the playoffs, and then their defense steps up. And this is it's starting to get scary for the rest of the NFL if you ask me, basically, with Kansas City.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, there was no surprise there really for me. I think it was obviously a known fact that they're a good team. They've been a good team for a long time. They switched out their entire offensive line, hence the struggles they had early on with running the football and Patrick Mahomes, because you could be as good as a quarterback as you want. When you make some of the decisions that I've seen some of these quarterbacks make this year, it becomes alarming. And I can explain to you why. You start seeing quarterbacks like, Patrick Mahomes throwing these sidearmers. And, the other day I'm watching Justin Fields throw the ball while he's leaping in the air. And, I'm watching all these quarterbacks, and I don't mean to put these two in the same boat. They're really obviously not even close. But you watch these quarterbacks try to, do these abnormal throws, and it puts you off for a minute, and it causes it to be inaccurate. When I see Patrick Mahomes, throwing across his body, sidearm, and makes a completion last year, it was like, oh my God, this guy is incredible. Look what he can do. And then you watch him do it again this year, and it's inaccurate, and it becomes an interception. And then there's problems for the defense because they're put in uncomfortable positions. Because say what you want about the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs in the beginning of the year, but Patrick Mahomes was throwing a hell of a lot of picks.
Oh, yeah, he was horrible.
And these were terrible decisions. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. And the kid's in, like, year 3.
Yeah.
And he has shown me this year that, obviously, you can be great, but the decision-making is everything. And, you know, unfortunately for him, his decisions have been, you know, subpar. Hence the reason why they're, you know, close to 500 team right now, as opposed to be a dominant, as opposed to having a dominant record. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, I just feel like they found it back. They're starting to run the football a lot better than they have all year long. Edwards-Helaire was non-existent in the beginning of this year. Obviously, he went down with an injury, and they continuously didn't run the football. But they weren't running the football with him in the beginning of the year to begin with. So I don't really put that on the running backs of the Kansas City Chiefs. I actually put that more on the offensive line. I think they found a way to start finding holes for their running game. And I'll tell you, you know, 3rd down and 4s are a lot easier to convert than 3rd down and 9s. And even for the almighty Patrick Mahomes, you know, your offense has to have a good flow. But part of having a good flow is being able to just get good chunks of yards and be able to get easy first downs. You don't want to be stuck in 3rd down and 10s and then have a defensive end have a field day. Because then he knows what's happening here, folks. I mean, he knows you're going to run the football at 3rd down and 10. So he can unleash on your quarterback, doesn't have to worry about running lanes. You know, it's a whole concept that people don't understand when it comes to offense, that what needs to be done. Everyone talks about, oh, just pass all day. This is a passing league. You know, it's great. It's fun. But the truth is that, you know, you got to be able to run the football well in this league, especially when the temperatures and, you know, start to get lower and, you know, the bad weather comes in. Running the football is the safest way without turning the ball over. I mean, I've always been a fan of that.
We had a team that actually ran the ball all but like 3 times and still win a game.
Of course.
So that's a big difference. You know, just like you said, you know, running the ball is huge. I mean, I'm
a Jet fan, and the best years I ever saw for the New York Jets was the years that we were running the football and we were playing good defense.
Yep.
We never had a great passing game. We never had a dominant passing game. The most dominant passing game I ever saw in the NFL didn't even win a Super Bowl. Yeah. And every Giant fan could sit there and, you know, agree with that one. You have to be able to run the football, or defensive ends or defensive line in general is going to have a field day with your quarterback because they know what you're doing.
Yeah, you just pin your ears back. So that's what it comes down to. You know, when a defense knows what you're doing, you know, you can have the most unique type of offense, you know, passing offense. But when a defense knows and you have superior defensive ends or defensive tackles or even linebackers rushing, you know, the offensive line, the superior defensive player is going to get there more times than, you know, not. So that's when it comes down to, you know, it's if they know that you're going to pass it every single down, it makes it so much easier to stop. And, you know, the team that you were talking about, obviously, was the undefeated New England Patriots that lost in the Super Bowl in 2007 to the New York Giants. Which
that was the best passing game I've ever watched.
It was unbelievable.
Ever.
It was unbelievable.
It was incredible.
Have you been watching Man in the Arena?
I haven't yet. I think it's going to be one of those shows that I'm going to fly through.
Yeah.
I mean, I have ESPN Plus. Yeah. I can get it. I obviously just want to watch it in one clean
It's incredible. Really.
I bet. I can imagine.
You know, and
some career from him.
Yeah. But speaking of Tom Brady, I guess because he's still in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about him now. Tampa Bay. You know, we were talking about Kansas City finding their stride right at the perfect time, and it kind of seems like Tampa Bay is doing the same. We were, that was the thing. We were questioning Kansas City, and we were questioning Tampa Bay earlier in the season, where we were like, maybe these two teams don't make it back. You know, as good as these two teams are, they're just not playing to their potential, and maybe they're broken. Who knows? That's not the fact anymore. These two teams are finding their stride at the perfect time. And again, it should be scary for the rest of the league, because when Tom Brady has the time that he has in the pocket and his offensive line is tops in the league, in the top 3, really, that's scary. And, could we, you know what? I'll ask the question. Are we going to see Tampa Bay and Kansas City again in the Super Bowl?
There's a potential for that, and it would be a good one. I think every NFL fan would be realistic to say that that's a great matchup to have. But, for me, I personally think that Kansas City's a great team, and they have a really good, solid team. But I don't mean to go backtracking here, but I mean I'm more along the lines. I'm on the Colts this year to actually go there. They really do have a complete team, and we're talking a good running game. And like I just talked about, I mean, you say what you want about Tom Brady and how great Tampa Bay is, but watch Tom Brady when he's playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It ain't like it was in New England.
No.
And I'll be honest, if Tom Brady would only knew that New England was going to develop a running game like they have this year, he probably would have stayed. But the running game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has been superb all year. Leonard Fournette has been great. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Ask any fantasy football owner of Leonard Fournette. He's been great all year. Catching the ball out of the backfield, running with the football very well. Having someone like Ronald Jones to spell that, and then obviously Giovanni Bernard, who actually just got injured,
hurt,
but he was another factor in there. When you have a good running game like that, the passing game becomes so easy. And because, like you say what you want, I mean, great offensive line from Tampa Bay, but you could still get to this. The best players in the world can get to Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same point, if you're running the football the way you are, it becomes next to impossible. And if you have a great offensive line, yeah, it is impossible, especially when you're running the football that well. And for Tampa, they've run the ball extremely well all year, and it's led to their success. I mean, you talk about, we could probably go back and look at the games that Tampa's lost. It's been games that they've tried to throw the ball way too much. Mm-hmm. Say what you want. Tom Brady's been great. He has, and they have thrown the ball a lot, and there's no doubt. But at the same time, you could see how at times he's thrown his share of interceptions. And like I've talked about.
Not many,
but he's shown a time. The game against Washington, it just nonstop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just nonstop interceptions, and a big reason why they lost. Now, they can't afford a game like that. They're going to have to be really supportive of their running game. I don't care if they're playing in Tampa Bay, Florida, or if they're going to be playing in Buffalo, New York. Right now, the path goes through Tampa at this rate. But, I mean, there's a possibility to go to Green Bay. And then what? Are we going to throw the ball 30 times? And then we're going to try and go match with Aaron Rodgers? What if that wind's up there? There's a lot of predicaments that come into play. You have to make sure your running game in this league is effective. And if it's not, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think for Tampa right now, I think they're playing all right. They're playing great. Their front line has been great. And obviously, I talk about running the football well. Nobody is running the football well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. There's no doubt. That is a known fact that nobody is running the ball well on this team. And if you can't run the football well on a team, they're going to be really, really good. And they're going to find a way to beat you, because then it becomes easier to play defense for them.
Yeah.
You stop the run, you really are making defense 100 times easier for your entire unit.
When it comes to Tampa Bay, they're getting healthy at the right time. Their whole secondary is coming back.
That's what they have to make sure.
That's the biggest thing, because their front seven basically has been there all year long. You had Levante David, you had Devin White. You've had guys like that, and Ndamukong Suh. So they haven't had an issue with their front seven. Their back, their defensive backs. That's been the issue when it comes to being healthy, and that's the key to Tampa Bay. Really, their offensive side. You hope that Gronk stays healthy. He's been banged up all year long, but when he's healthy, you see the difference. When Tom Brady has a healthy Gronk in the lineup, and it's insane, really. But we go from one team that actually two teams that are at the top of the league, and now we start talking about some of the bottom teams, just because we are in the New York, side of things. Here we go.
Yay.
We got it.
Who do we got first?
Let's talk
first.
Let's talk about the embarrassing Giants.
I have no right to call any other organization embarrassing, but nonetheless.
Well, actually, Jacksonville's still in the league, so
and the New York Jets.
All right, but let's talk about the Giants first. Giants, embarrassing game again. But let's talk about what we saw that made it even more embarrassing. They tried a fake punt.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Obviously, the game was well in hand at that point, 27-7. I'm pretty sure everyone knew the Chargers were going to win that game. For the New York Giants, they have a lot of problems. It's funny because you had Giant fans telling me Daniel Jones was the problem, and no,
not even close.
No, he's not. Unfortunately, right now,
but we've been saying that for how long now?
Now, granted, but see, that's where the Giants got to do this right, as opposed to what the New York Jets have done over and over and over again. You know, drafting a quarterback at this point now, when you're not sure about Daniel Jones and what to expect, it's okay to draft a quarterback in this league, especially in this draft in particular. I don't think there's really anyone with an extreme amount of height.
No.
You know, you can learn from someone like Daniel Jones and see what you got and then be able to have options at that point. Right now, I feel like for the New York Giants, it's Daniel Jones or bust.
Well, they got one more year of him. Basically, that's on contract.
But
I think you have to play that out.
But this is a year that you need to have a quarterback just in case things don't go as north as you want them to. You know, you don't want them to. You want it to be really, really high up, but you know, if they end up not being great, there's a lot of question marks for the New York Giants, and you don't want to force yourself to take a quarterback at a certain point of the draft. So, you know, for the New York Giants, I think it's more than one problem right here. I think the pass rush needs to be better.
They need everything. I mean,
yeah, I'm saying
serious.
There because there is more, and there's a lot more.
Offensive line.
But the most imperative things I would say is the offensive line and defensive line. They need to be revamped. You got 2 picks, potentially top 10s. I think you need to answer both those questions. I think it's an offensive lineman and defensive lineman. That's just my personal opinion. I think that secondary with the New York Giants is very good. They're anything but embarrassing. They played great all year long. That Giant defense is no slouch. It really isn't. They've been great for the most part all year. The pass rush has just been awful. So it really just credits the secondary that much more, just based on the fact that they haven't gotten any kind of a rush all season long. But for the New York Giants, there's a lot of problems. I mean, the fake punt, you know, that's just at that point, Joe Judge just trying to, you know, take his, you know, put his hand in the magical hat and try to pull out a miracle at that point. But the game was well in hand at that, you know, at that stage. I don't really put this on Joe Judge at this point. The last 2 games, I wouldn't. The first, the first like 10 before that I did. But obviously the last 2 in particular, I don't put on Joe Judge at all. But right now he's got to see that he's in the hot seat. I mean, it makes sense. Here we are in year 2. Nothing has changed. The team is still beat down. Saquon Barkley can't find a groove. That's really on you. You know, you need to have a good blocking scheme at that point. I put the same thing. I say the same thing about Robert Saleh. I mean, we'll talk about both New York teams. Might as well make this the New York time.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the New York Giants and Jets both deserve their own section right now. I mean, and it's not to be mean or anything. It's just the concept of how
we could call it the New Jersey section.
Whatever you would like to call it. That's fine with me.
I mean, to be honest with you, so I think it'll be a failure for the Giants if they keep Joe Judge. Only because, like we said, Gettleman's not going to be there next year.
Yeah, you might as well fire the entire.
You have to, and you know, this is not something because it's not going to get better next year. So you're only going to fire Joe Judge next year.
Yes.
You know, and that's the issue. You know, when it comes down to it, because this is now you're going to bring a GM that did not bring Joe Judge in, and that's where the friction comes, because that's what happened with the Jets. We saw that easily. And you know, the funny thing is that these guys share the same building. I almost cursed there. They share the same building. So you would think that you would learn from the mistakes of the team that is in the same building. Okay, you know, we had the whole same thing with Joe Douglas and Adam Gase, and you know, it's not something that you want to deal with.
Well, some can argue.
Cut your ties with Joe Judge.
Yeah, but some can argue that even the building, like,
is not good.
It's not good either. No. So it's not just the teams playing.
Well, I mean, compared to
the building sucks too. I mean,
it's a side note, and I'm actually going there Sunday. But
you're actually going to go there?
Yeah, I am.
Wow. Why?
Unfortunately.
Why?
Well, I gotta see the boys.
Sorry, I had to ask why multiple times on the basis that I'm just mystified as to why you would go there.
Well, yeah, the Cowboys are in town, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, there's a.
But I mean, like when I went to AT&T Stadium. Now I've only been to the old Meadowlands and MetLife before ever going to AT&T. So really all I knew was MetLife. And it's really nothing fabulous. You would think that a new stadium in the recent, 10 years, would be decent. And then when you look at the price that they paid to build this stadium compared to the prices of other stadiums, and I go to AT&T, now MetLife is more money. They spent more money building that stadium than Jerry Jones did on AT&T. And I went to AT&T and I was like,
isn't there like a Six Flags over there too and everything?
Right, yeah. It's all in the same strip. All in the same strip. So it's Six Flags. Now, this is a side note. Six Flags, then it's the Texas Rangers stadium. Actually, both their stadiums, Arlington and the other stadium, are back-to-back, really. Mm-hmm. Then they have this big hotel / restaurant / mall type thing right in dead smack in the middle of the two baseball stadiums and AT&T Stadium. So it's all in one strip: Six Flags, Texas Rangers, the mall, and AT&T. And I mean, first of all, the stadium is gigantic. And you get closer to the stadium and it feels like it gets bigger. And then you have your ticket and you have to go to the gate. Obviously, you go to the gate that it says on your ticket. But in other stadiums, you can go to any gate and walk in and then just walk around. You can't do that at AT&T. You have to actually go to their gate that you're going to be sitting at, and that's where you basically get your tickets scanned. So you walk in, and now when you go through the ticket, you're still outside of the stadium, but technically you're inside the stadium. So you already handed in your ticket, but you're still outside. So they have a stage. They had a whole big tailgate type thing. They had people singing. They had all these pop-up shops. They had bars. All this stuff outside of the stadium. Then you walk in the stadium, and we did the day before we went to the game. We went and did a stadium tour, and I mean the place is just unbelievable. We got to go on the field, and I just thought to myself, I was like, why would I ever want to go to MetLife? Why? And I just had friends actually go that are Giants fans. They actually went to AT&T and they said the same thing. It's unbelievable there. It's a whole different.
It's not even a good comparison.
No.
It's funny because they spent more money, and obviously it's because they wanted.
They're in
more
the top four.
They wanted more seats,
spent.
and they wanted it's because they wanted to make.
But meanwhile,
money.
AT&T has more seating than MetLife does.
Really?
Yes.
That's
AT&T, well, technically,
I know, yeah,
with
it's like
standing
kind of,
room,
it's kind of like it's not, it's below sea level. I've heard all.
They
about
have
it. My
over
friend was telling me,
100,000 seats.
Yeah.
So, or they have 90,000 seats or something like that, but with
the point
standing
is
room.
that this both teams playing in this building as well as the building are both garbage, and
not to mention there's no roof on it.
Yeah, and then you're talking about well, I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of that. I actually don't like. Taking away the weather increment.
No,
of the game.
I'm fine with that, but a retractable roof.
Yeah, would have been smart. But
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's stuff. That's the stuff that you got to think about, because the same thing with the Mets and the Yankees
that's
too.
not money going into either one of our pockets. So
I know.
I mean, that's just a dumb move on someone else's part. I mean, obviously, we look from now and in hindsight and everything, and we continue to laugh at it. But I mean, obviously, it's not my money loss, so I could care less. So, but I know what you mean. Obviously, both teams in this building right now need to play better. Obviously, Zach Wilson going out is ranked as one of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now. 32, to be honest, folks, in the ranking that we're going to be talking about later on. Mike Glennon obviously not far behind. Daniel Jones not far behind that. It's been a disaster in New York. I think all fans in New York can agree that we're just really interested at what time the draft starts as opposed to actually when it is. Like, I don't need to know. Just give me the time.
Well, as of right now.
Because that's the only care.
As of right now, the Giants are... Well, the Jets are 4. Giants are 5 and 6. Jets are 7. And then the other team that has 2 picks is the Eagles, 10 and 11. So, at one point, they were all together. It was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It's pretty
You know,
fun.
like,
but again, there's a lot
yeah.
more of the season to go. I mean, obviously Seattle's got the Rams this week. Let's go. Need the Rams to pull off a win there for the Jets standpoint. But obviously, as we continue to progress in New York with football, and obviously football is such a demanding sport. Like, I want to be good all the time. I don't ever want to have years like this. And unfortunately, I'm having a couple in a row. And it's unfortunate, but patience is.
I have a question for you. So I heard this actually listening to the radio, and again, this is another side note. But would you rather? And this is kind of on the standpoint of the Giants. Would you rather win a Super Bowl and be bad for the next 10 years or so, or be good for 10 years and not win a Super Bowl?
I'd rather the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I think. I feel the same way. But
yeah, I
mean,
just want to win it all one time, and then that's it. At that point, I wouldn't really.
But when it comes to the Giants, all right, so they won 2 Super Bowls so far in our lifetime. But every other year, other than their Super Bowl years, they've been pretty bad.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I mean, like,
no doubt about it.
Recently, of like the last 10 years, they've been really, really bad.
Well, it's been fortunate for Jet fans because they would obviously be lighting us up with jokes. Left
well, the
and
Jets
right.
haven't
really
won a Super Bowl, and they've been bad for that long.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely. I understand, but the jokes obviously can't be that effective when you're playing the way you are as well. So the New York Giants have their own issues as much as the New York Jets, and I think both need to figure it out. It starts with the quarterback for both teams, and right now the quarterback play for both teams has been questionable all season long, but based on the rest of the team. I mean, you need a good O-line here. You know, these other teams have been more inclined to, just develop their teams and get better year in and year out. Watching the Colts, for example, and then even watching Tampa Bay, a lot of these guys they have now are very new. They're new, good draft picks that Tampa Bay has been able to make. The Jets just got to follow suit. They got to find the right draft picks at this point, and right now, it seems like some of the people they've drafted just aren't playing as well. Yeah,
now, so another question for you, and I'll give my answer as well. And again, this it comes up as perfect timing, especially with Urban Meyer being fired. But this also goes in tune with the Giants and Jets, really. So now everybody talks about Joe Judge and how he, is trying to replicate Bill Belichick, and it's kind of, basically he's landing face first when it comes down to that. But what kind of head coach do you want? Is it an irate coach, whereas all they do is, up and down the sidelines, screaming and yelling, ripping their team in press conferences, this and that, whatever it is? Or would you rather a very positive coach like Joe Judge has been, when no matter how bad they've looked, he always tries to put some kind of positive twist on it, but just sounds so bad when he's doing it? Because, lately it's just been like, well, I've been seeing some positives in this. I think we're on the right path. But meanwhile, you gave up 38 points and only scored 7. It's something like that. Would you rather that positive coach, or would you rather that irate, crazy coach, or kind of in the middle?
I think a balance is definitely needed in that kind of standpoint. I think, but for the most part, I don't ever want to see my coach lashing out. I'll be honest. It just shows it's just a childish way to act. You're angry and you can't control your anger, and therefore you feel like you need to lash out. That's a child that acts like that. I don't think a grown-ass man does it, and I don't even mean to throw that in there, but it's the truth. Yeah. And, you're supposed to be a professional. Obviously, you are the head coach of a football team in the National Football League. People know who you are, or people are going to find out who you are. And, you need to set a good example. You cannot be acting irate and screaming and yelling, throwing headsets. And I'm not talking about one coach when I say this. I've seen plenty of coaches do it, and they're childish. All of them. They're very, very childish. Even you saw with Urban Meyer, throwing his assistant coaches under the bus on certain standpoints of the game. Like, it's just not the way to act. And unfortunately, look where it got him. But when I see a coach acting like that, even in the very minimal amount, I see it as a childish act. You need to be able to be a professional at all times. And even if you are frustrated, and there are times as a head coach to be frustrated, I'm not arguing that at all. But there's a way to act on the camera and off the camera. I mean, you ask honestly, just go have a topic of conversation with any politician you ever met, and they'll teach you how to be in front of camera. I mean, it's very simple.
Oh, yeah.
They're the biggest. It's really not hard. You keep a professional state, and obviously, if you're angry, obviously the people you're angry at aren't talking to you while you're on, in front of a microphone after the game, like the news and the media outlets and all that. There's no reason to be frustrated with them. They obviously haven't done anything. They have to ask those questions. But if you're really showing frustration, obviously you're frustrated by what you saw on the field. Yeah. Therefore, your frustration stays in the locker room with the players and with the other coaches. You don't try to lash out with the media and say things. I've seen coaches do it before. And I'll be honest, out of all of them that I've ever seen, I mean, some of them you still see to this day. Yeah. The clips of them and stuff. They make me laugh, and that's exactly what it does for a lot of people. A lot of people laughed at you while you were doing that, that one gentleman saying, they are who we thought they were.
Oh, yeah.
The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Danny Green.
Yeah. I mean, see how I don't know his name?
I mean, he was.
You see how I don't know his name? No, but let's seriously point this out. You see my point here. What I'm trying to say is that obviously you acting like that. I laughed at that.
Rest in peace, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. But I laughed at that when that was happening live.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, that was great.
It was great, but it was him showing his emotion with the media, and the media is going to have a field day. If you think I'm laughing at you, just know that the media members are having a full field day with it.
Well, this is perfect for you. Did you like Rex Ryan as a head coach?
I did, but I could see where you're going with that. And
let's make sure we play like the New York Jets and not some slap team. That's what I want to see tomorrow. Do we understand what the I want to see tomorrow? Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Obviously, look where it got us.
Well, I mean, you did go to 2 AFC championship games.
Yes, but that's because he was a good coach.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's about actually knowing the X's and O's factor of the game. That he was a specialist at that. There's no doubt, and everyone knew it.
And I'm surprised that he's not.
I'm surprised he's still not a coach either. I mean, I'll be honest. I can't believe there's not a team out there that wouldn't mind him as a head coach, defensive coordinator, defensive specialist.
I mean, definitely defensive specialist.
Absolutely. He was very good at writing up blitzes. Ask any of the players. And the Jets did not have.
He was a linebackers coach.
The Jets did not have a lot of talent on that defensive side the years they played well. They just played the game the right way.
Yeah. I mean,
but he was lashed, and he would, but even so, majority of the stuff you saw about Rex Ryan, him lashing out, is because they did Hard Knocks. If they would have never done Hard Knocks, he kept a very professional state.
Yeah, I mean,
in front of the media all the time.
You saw him on the sideline, loses.
Yes, and that's where I would have an issue. It's like, dude, you need to be able to control yourself in this. Obviously, you're frustrated. And I understand that.
Yeah.
That's why these coaches put a little thing over their face when they are talking. Everyone talks about, no, they're calling out plays. Yeah, they're calling out plays. But I'm telling you right now, if they need to scream at someone, I promise you it'll be going beyond one of those. So
to me, in terms of, a head coach, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I want a balanced, I want to see him pissed off when he should be pissed off. And I want to see, I don't want to see him in a press conference ripping a player or ripping a coach. There's subtle jabs that you can take without it really being a big thing. Now, mind you, like we said, the media always tries to spin anything that happens in the worst way. It's never in the good way. If you ever understand that, I mean, we should really, especially what's going on in the world now, we should see how the media works. This is the perfect time to see how the media works. Everything's going to be spun into the worst way. So when you see players or coaches say something, they're always going to try to spin it. So I like the coaches that
I've seen coaches argue with a quarterback on the sideline, and it becomes the only story after the game. That's why you cannot act like that on the sideline in front of these cameras. Again, it's understandable to be frustrated, but it has to go within the locker room. You want to show your quarterback frustration? Halftime is going to happen.
Yeah. Perfect time.
Or the end of the game, regardless.
Perfect example is that in that Man in the Arena, the Tom Brady documentary. If you haven't seen it, go watch it so far. I think they're through 4 or 5 episodes. In the last episode, they have Bill O'Brien. So each episode, they have different guys that played a role in the year that they're talking about. And they have them where they're interviewing them basically. So this episode was Giselle, Bill O'Brien, and I forget who else, but Bill O'Brien played a big part. So they mentioned a time where it was one of the games. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was a playoff game or it was just a regular season game. They called a play. Brady was expecting the wide receiver to, basically make some kind of move to get him the ball. Brady ends up throwing the pick. And then on the sideline, Brady goes to that wide receiver and goes, dude, you have to keep running. Bill O'Brien comes over and goes, why don't you shut the F up, to Tom Brady. Now, that's ballsy is not even the word, for a coach like that to say that to Tom Brady, who's already, I guess, this was 2011. So he's probably about 8 or 9 years in so far. So that's, it was crazy for him to do that. But then they go into a shouting match on the sideline. And I remember the time because I remember it being all over the news, as you were saying. But when you hear the context of it between the two of them and the fact that all they said was they would fight like brothers, and you know how you fight with your brother. Like, it's just, that's how it is. And then the next minute they're all good. But again, like I said, the media takes that a different way. So, when it comes down to a coach, I like to see him keep it in. But also, there's times where I want to see him pissed off.
Bill O'Brien had times like that as well, where he would be irate on the sideline and he would voice it and then obviously get into arguments. I'm pretty sure he had arguments like that with DeAndre Hopkins at times. It's not a good look. Obviously, these are just people that can't control their emotions. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Controlling your emotions is not a difficult task at times. Obviously, when you're frustrated, but you have to find a way to be able to control yourself and not be able to act in a certain demeanor that some of these coaches do, because then you become the topic of conversation post-game, and the topic of conversation should be the result of the game, and it should be with you winning. And if it's not with you winning, on top of that, there's issues, and then all of a sudden they're talking about it all week long. You're getting nothing but asked questions about it. How's everything going in practice? And they're just unnecessary questions to be asking and an unnecessary focus to have. Your focus should be at the task at hand, which is to win the next game, not who's the coach going to yell at the next game. I mean, it's just unnecessary. It's childish, and it's immature in the biggest way you could possibly imagine. At this point in your life, you are a professional. You are a grown adult. There comes a time where there's a task at hand. Let's make it happen. I mean, just go ask Belichick. Yeah. Just go ask him. You're going to tell me this guy's never been frustrated. He's absolutely been frustrated before.
And it never...
But he knows where to show it.
Yeah, with Belichick, it never goes further on the sideline than him just throwing his hands up and maybe cursing. And, through Man in the Arena, you actually hear, the players talk about how Belichick would go into the locker room, and that's when he rips them, where there's no media and there's no cameras. So that's, and that's what makes him so great, really. I mean, that's one of the things that makes him so great. But let's get back to, some other teams. One team that I want to talk about, the Buffalo Bills. What's wrong with them? Are they going to miss the playoffs this year? Because they're not playing like they did last year, and it's a little scary if you're coming from a Buffalo Bills fan. It's really scary, to be honest with you, especially now with Josh Allen potentially hurt.
Well, what it comes down to with the Buffalo Bills is that obviously they dealt with a big injury to Tre'Davious White. He's one of the best cornerbacks in football. It's a big loss.
Yeah, what did I call him? Legarius, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, one time. I don't even know. I just kept moving on with the conversation and the podcast at that point. But honestly,
I don't know where I got that from either.
When it comes to the Bills and the struggles they have, it's similar to what I explained to you earlier with someone like Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen's been doing something similar. Now, Allen's decision-making has been incredible at times, and there's no doubt about it. Josh Allen has been a great player. But there are times where this man's decisions are questionable. Absolutely. And these haven't been the best of defenses that he's been playing. Obviously, you give credit to certain ones, but Josh Allen is having a very hard time getting the balls to his playmakers. Don't get me wrong, he is spreading the ball out really well. But the most success comes from the teams that stick to the best players that they have. We talk about Urban Meyer might potentially have been fired based on the fact that James Robinson didn't play enough.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best players that Jacksonville has to offer. Well, Stephon Diggs is one of the best players you have to offer. And I don't see like a growing to his game at all this year. It has been questionable, to say the least.
Well, it's a huge difference from last year. It's a big
and
drop
don't get me wrong. Obviously, guys like Dawson Knox are emerging, and having someone like Emmanuel Sanders also helps. But, Sanders was out last week. Diggs had a decent role. Nothing to what I was expecting. But when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, the decision-making, just like I talked about with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm a big fan of Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, it took me some time, but he played great last year, and I was a big fan of Allen. He played amazing last year, just like the way Mahomes had been 2 years, 3 years prior. Just an incredible outing. A lot of touchdowns, no interceptions, good decisions, good choices to run the football, when not to run with the football, slide, get out of bounds, make sure not get hurt, all this kind of stuff, prevent sacks, all this stuff. But now I see Josh Allen throwing these throws, and they're tough throws to make.
Well,
and they've led to interceptions at times. And these are bad decisions that you don't realize that you need to win the turnover battle above everything else. You go look at the numbers all time in the NFL when it comes to turnovers, as opposed to winning a football game, the turnover battle.
Oh, yeah.
It will go hand in hand forever.
Yeah.
No matter how long this game gets played for. And for the Buffalo Bills, you have to win that in order to win games like that. You got a defense that's been playing subpar at this point. They were expected to be dominant. Obviously, losing White was a big problem. But then you look on the other side of the football, and you're watching this team. I'm telling you right now, their running game is absolutely non-existent. I am so sorry. I'm hitting wires and stuff just to show the frustration as to how much they aren't running the football.
No,
I've been talking this entire show about how important it is to run the football as opposed to success in the NFL.
I think that's one thing that they need to.
Well, that's a big problem that Josh Allen's dealing with. Josh Allen is dealing with pass rushes that these teams know you're throwing the football because your running game is getting you 1 or 2 yards every single down. Ask the New York Jets, they're in the same predicament. You have to be able to run the football to have success offensively in this league. Well, I don't care who you are. You could be the almighty Tom Brady. Tom Brady will be the first one to tell you how important it is to run the football. Right now, Josh Allen, no running game. I'm not putting all the blame on him. There's no reason to. He's been great. He has been great. His decisions are great. He has been a superb player for them. And honestly, a steal where they got him in the draft that year.
Well, yeah, it's not really – it's nothing against him. Like,
no, you just got to be able to run the football better.
He's had an off season. But, I mean, a lot of that, basically, I don't – how could we say it? A lot of this, flack that we're putting on him has a lot to do with how perfect of a season he had last year. We're looking at how perfect of a season he had last year, and we're like, all right, this is what we're expecting for the rest of his career. And that's hard to that's a hard ask for someone like him.
Well, the truth is that they couldn't run the football last year either, and he just did some incredible things to get that team where they needed to be. Obviously,
but again, he's not
perfect. But he's not Superman.
No,
he
he's
is not Superman. There's no Superman in the NFL. There really isn't. You need to be able to run the football. Exactly. But even he'll tell you need to run the ball.
Of course.
I mean, Strahan had a field day with this guy a couple of years ago because he knew they knew they were going to run the football. Yeah. And when you know a team's going to run, when you know a team's going to pass the football all game long, that doesn't work here.
No.
Yeah, maybe you'll get the big play here and there, but odds are you're going to throw an interception before someone's going to sack fumble you before that big play happens. So you really do need to be careful when throwing the football in the NFL. Every single one of these teams in the NFL right now will tell you the same thing. Every head coach will tell you the same thing.
Yeah. So, I'll ask you real quick: the Bills going to make the playoffs?
Yes, but they're not going to be a threat.
I don't think so either. All right, so let's get into some power rankings. We got 2 power rankings that we're going to do. A couple of weeks ago, we did the QB rankings that we saw on NFL.com.
Yeah, that was fun.
Guess what? They're back.
Yay.
They're back. All right, now we're talking. Now, when it comes
Where's
to
Fields too?
context with this NFL.com QB ranking, it's all the starting quarterbacks from last week, and then we'll talk about them. So you're not going to see Daniel Jones in this. You're not going to see.
Thank God, right?
Yeah. So and then after that, we're going to give
Zach Wilson.
After that, we're going to give our team power rankings thus far, and then we'll call it a show. We'll get into our quarterback ranking right now. Here we go. 32. We mentioned it before. That is Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. Do we have to talk any more of that?
No.
I'll say right now, the scary thing about Zach Wilson. First of all, as the Jets organization, you're not going to move away from a rookie quarterback. One season in that you took number 2. So you just hope that he learns from his mistakes this year, comes in next year, starts to progress, and then easily every year he progresses. The issue with that is the Jets they just don't have a good track record with quarterbacks. And the scary thing about Zach Wilson is he's missing the easy passes. And that's the one thing that scares me when I'm watching him is that, I mean, the guy could be 4 yards away and he's winging it or he's throwing it into the ground. And that's a little, I guess, scary when you're hoping that, his head gets right and that moves down to the rest of, his body and he starts to show what he showed at BYU.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot that goes into it. I think he needs to get more of a familiarity with the playbook and what exactly the coach is looking for out of every play call that's made throughout the game. I feel like there are times where he's doing too much thinking in the pocket, and you just, before you even snap that ball, there's an idea of what you're trying to do on that play.
Yeah.
And I feel like at times he's not sure where he's going to go before that ball is snapped, and that's a big issue for the New York Jets. They need to figure that out with him big time, to be honest. And unfortunately, right now, it's not working out. 6 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It's not acceptable. Guy's got 2 more rushing touchdowns. I can only imagine how many fumbles. It's been a disaster for the New York Jets. And obviously, we go right back to 31. It's Mike Glennon. They're going to go with the New York Giants. And their quarterback ranked at 31 right now. Obviously, no Daniel Jones. Mike Glennon, take for what it's worth. Obviously, coming in at a rough time, trying to fill in for a team with a subpar offensive line, a head coach that I'm not sure if he knows what he's doing with the whole idea of Freddie Kitchens. But obviously Mike Glennon isn't the quarterback for the future for the New York Giants, and therefore the fact that I'm still even talking about this without him scrolling up is just incredible at this rate. We go to Davis Mills, Houston Texans, obviously not the starter again. The only starter we're talking about so far has been Zach Wilson, pathetic.
Is Tyrod Taylor hurt, or they just started him?
I think he was hurt. They did have him come back saying doctors cleared him and everything, but obviously he must still be feeling something, and it might be a mixture of that as opposed to why David Mills is a starter. David Mills had a great game last week. I see them 4-point dogs against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were going with a coach change midweek. So I don't see how Houston loses this game. I mean, this is almost one of those where I don't see Houston losing this football game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars have a decent defense. Houston's defense has shown up at times too. I'm still confused by this spread over the weekend, especially with the whole idea that idea that Jacksonville lost their coach. Why would the Houston Texans be dogs? I don't care if they're in Jacksonville.
I mean, to be honest with you, out of all the rookie quarterbacks, him and probably Justin Fields have shown more than you would see from Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson.
Hey, it's going to be a competition between Mills and Lawrence to see who made the right pick there, which is like a little scary.
And
speaking of which, Trevor Lawrence, 29, has not played great this year at all. Obviously, I put that a lot of credit to Urban Meyer's play calling and taking out their best players when the time is needed for them. I don't put this on Trevor Lawrence at all. I think this ranking is just him learning. I think him and Zach Wilson are in the same boat. A lot of learning. A lot of thought process going into a lot of the plays. And again, the best quarterbacks in this league know what they're going to do before the snap.
Read that first sentence.
Yeah, no, it's literally 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns in 7 games since the Jaguars Week 7 bye. That's a little scary.
Yeah, well, that's all. I think I put all that on Urban Meyer. I just feel like this team didn't put themselves in a good situation. I mean, if you can't run the football effectively, I don't know what to tell you. You're putting your best running back on the bench in games where he's needed, and you need to be able to run the ball better. Cam Newton sitting at 28.
You know what? I would not be opposed to putting him at 32 and putting Zach Wilson up 1 and just everybody up 1 because Cam Newton has been that bad. Other than his rushing touchdowns, he has been that bad.
And he's been benched for P.J. Walker half the season.
But this is what I'm saying. Like P.J. Walker, you have him start 1 game, and the guy wins the game and played well. And then you sign Cam Newton, and P.J. Walker goes out the window. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. Cam Newton has not been that good. Yeah. And, I mean, he's been downright horrible, really. Especially throwing the ball. Rushing the ball, Cam Newton's Cam Newton. But I don't understand the infatuation of Cam Newton. I knew that they wanted, Carolina, Cam Newton back with them, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. Stop it. Cam Newton should probably retire.
Yes.
Taysom Hill, number 27. His middle finger, you can see, is hindering him throwing the ball. Him rushing the ball is better than Cam Newton. But, he threw okay in the second half of that Jets game. But if the Jets were any kind of a good team, they probably could.
Yeah, I can't believe we were talking about these guys for an extensive amount of time. We should be at 15 already.
I had to give some kind of context.
Well, Taysom Hill, I'll be so quick with it. Real quick. Taysom Hill can run with the football.
He's not a quarterback.
He can run with the football. Yeah, he can't throw.
Yeah.
He can't throw. It's the same thing as this guy we're coming up to next.
Well, I like Justin Fields.
But he can run the football.
He absolutely can. And I think he's only going to get better at throwing the ball because I've watched him in high school and I watched him in college. The guy can throw the ball. He's got an arm. I just don't think that the Bears have enough on the offensive side other than Allen Robinson.
I'll tell you right now, there's no excuse. They've been running the football all year. Obviously, Justin Fields is in a situation. I'm telling you right now, if you give Zach Wilson, instead of getting 1 or 2 yards every single down, you're getting this guy 7 or 8 like David Montgomery's been doing for him, I'd be a lot more successful than 10 fumbles and 10 interceptions. Can we please move on? Jared Goff, just switch. Just move up. Just go right past Jared Goff, 25, please.
Okay, Jared Goff. Taylor Heineke, 24. And when the last time we did the quarterback ranking, he was in the top 15, I think. I mean, he's not having a bad year. I think Washington might have found their quarterback. You're not going to go to Fitzpatrick after this.
He's younger.
Yeah.
He's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. 19 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, 13 games. When they finally played a good team, they lost.
He's also got a really good head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on. 23, Ben Roethlisberger probably should have been 32.
You should have just kept it. Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger, just keep moving. Unfortunately, last season for him, I want to pay some respect. Last season for him, obviously his last season.
He should probably call it a season now.
Yeah, like, I think it's basically over for him. He was great for years, an incredible talent, impossible to bring down, but obviously he can't rotate anymore. He's afraid to get hurt every time, and I don't blame him, man. It's one life to live here. He's already dealt with enough injuries. It's time to call it quits.
The beating that he's taken his whole career is starting to come up on him, and he's older.
Well, everybody else in his draft class is gone. I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't just join.
Exactly.
Tom Brady, I don't understand the concept of him still playing, but if I was playing in Tampa Bay, Florida, every week, I'd be fine with that too.
Baker Mayfield, number 22. I don't know what to say about Baker. I really don't. The guy's got one of the best, if not the best, rushing offense in the league between the two-headed monster of Kareem Hunt and Chubbs. But, I mean, and then you have a wide receiver like Jarvis Landry. He had Odell Beckham. I don't know really what to say about Baker Mayfield anymore. I mean, they should be better than they are.
Absolutely. Especially with the draft capital they used on him.
Yeah.
Move up.
21.
Honestly, I like him here.
So do I. I like him.
I don't see him ever going above here, but he'll be here. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Tua should be ahead of him. I think they're both like in a very similar standpoint. I think both of these players were expected to be.
I feel like they're the same.
Well, they're supposed to be where Kyler Murray is right now in this league from where they were drafted, and unfortunately they're sitting in the 20 rank.
Jimmy G. at 19.
I've been liking the way he's played all year. I think he's done a great job at game managing, aside from the 14 turnovers overall so far this year. Jimmy needs to be better holding on to that football, but almost 3,000 yards already. But
you did the math real quick on that.
Yeah,
real quick.
Did you have to carry the one, or
I didn't even really think about adding those together.
8 interceptions and 6. But I mean, turnovers are turnovers in the NFL. They're the most important thing, and you got to hold on to the football. That's why throwing the football is so scary in this league, because then you do things like Jimmy does.
Teddy Bridgewater, 18, has not moved from that spot. 18 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Denver is in a okay spot, I guess. Teddy Bridgewater is Teddy Bridgewater. He's not going to,
Same thing, a great game manager.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of game managers in the middle area right
yep.
here. You're not really seeing any of the big timers. Matt Ryan right now at this point, he's game managing as well.
Yeah.
He's not in the standpoint where he was 5 years
8
ago.
fumbles is a little scary.
Yeah, no, again, this is just...
That's easier
throwing,
math.
that's
19 turnovers.
Yeah,
that's easier math.
That's throwing. Yeah, but again, at the same time, that's throwing the football way too much. That's way too many turnovers.
Well, I mean, when you have when you have to actually use your rushing offense with a wide receiver.
Yeah, the rushing game
is
just pathetic for Atlanta at this point.
Another game manager.
Yep, exactly.
Ryan Tannehill, too many interceptions.
Too many times throwing the football.
Yeah.
But Derrick Henry goes down with an injury. You start throwing it more. You have no wide receivers to go with. We just continue to move on. A lot of turnovers this year.
Before we move on, Tennessee, if they could just manage basically the rest of their games, and they stay in the playoff hunt, they stay in the playoff area, and they make the playoffs, you get Derrick Henry back, this team could be a pretty scary team to play.
Yes.
Especially on the road, because they have the perfect recipe for road victories. Carson Wentz, 15.
I think he should be a little higher from where I'm seeing him.
22 touchdowns to 5 interceptions.
But he also got 7 fumbles, so that's 12 turnovers altogether. 22 touchdowns. We're doing math. We're going to do math. But the 22 touchdowns is just the difference maker here. We're looking at a guy who is finding a way to 7 yards per attempt is pretty good too.
The thing is, so when
Zach
Wentz
Wilson's got a 1.4 in that.
When Wentz was in the MVP race and when he was good with Philadelphia, he had Frank Reich on the offensive side of the ball. Frank Reich ends up taking Indianapolis' job. Carson Wentz production goes.
Yep. Now
joins him again in Indianapolis, and look at it. Almost 3,000 passing yards. He's percentage is 63.3. 22 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Obviously, you want the fumbles to go down, but he does rush the ball a lot for a game manager, I guess. 167 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, but the 7 fumbles is a little questionable. So you hope that he fixes that if he's going to go on that run that you believe that the Colts are going to go on. Russell Wilson, number 14, again 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Seattle just doesn't have anything really.
Well, they haven't turned the ball over much, which has been good. But obviously, the defense
just can't.
Well, the defense can't stop anybody. If you can't stop anybody in this league, there's nothing you can really do. Russell Wilson having a great year. He should be top 10.
His
obviously, he's missed a lot of games. I mean, obviously, if he played a full season, he'd be at 25 plus right now. I mean, look at Mac Jones. Same amount of games, has played that many more games, and he's got the same amount of touchdowns. So,
but this is where you see the difference. 70% completion rating, still almost over to 3,000 yards. 7.5 yards per attempt. So it's not like he's dunking and whatever. 5 fumbles, 8 interceptions, 16 touchdowns. I mean, that's Mac Jones is doing exactly what Belichick wants him to do.
Yep.
And you know what? He's got the Patriots looking like one of the better teams in the AFC. Lamar Jackson, number 12. I'm not a big fan of Lamar Jackson this year, although he did get hurt in this last game. I don't see what everybody else was seeing earlier in the season. 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, only 2 rushing touchdowns this year in 12 games. That's
he's got close to 20 turnovers. Can we move on?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
I'm looking.
That's what I'm saying.
This is all I keep noticing with this is when I see all these turnovers, all these top, out of the top 10 quarterbacks, they're struggling with turnovers right now. Obviously, Kirk Cousins, I feel like getting a little lost here. I think he's having a much better year than a lot of people are giving him credit for. The 27 touchdowns, the 5 interceptions is very good. I mean, he's got 89 yards rushing, getting those big first downs when needed. Obviously 7 fumbles.
He's been efficient.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at it, efficient.
27 and
27 and 5 interceptions.
I would say 12.
Well, 12,
overall,
with the
turnovers,
fumbles, yeah.
absolutely.
But also looking at it, it's not like they don't throw a lot. I mean, 3,500 passing yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, 66. So basically a 67 completion rating. I mean, that's efficient. You're looking at a very efficient year.
He should be a
Kirk
top
Cousins.
10 player. I don't understand what he's doing at 11.
He's right outside of it.
But I can't wait to see, because I'll be able to find out who's not belongs there. I mean, Patrick Mahomes being a 10. Let's just move on. I can't wait to see all 9 names in front. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we really look at it, we've been talking about
same thing with him. Almost 20 turnovers.
19 turnovers. So that's what I'm saying.
Josh Allen's up there too, probably. I mean, now it's becoming a trend. Again, same
19,
thing.
Yeah. 19.
But these are teams that are
turnovers.
throwing the ball a lot. If you look at Dak, you look at Kirk Cousins, you look at Patrick Mahomes, they are throwing the ball a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, but again, efficiency. Look at it. Patrick Mahomes, 65% completion, 3,600 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, and then still has 27 touchdowns.
Oh, of course. And
then you look at Dak, 12 games.
I think Russell Wilson would be in the same boat if he was healthy right now.
3,300 yards, 7.4, 24 passing touchdowns. So, right now the issue with these guys being ranked so low is their turnovers.
Absolutely.
Derek Carr, 19 turnovers. And now he's got closer to 4,000 than anybody else.
I think Derek Carr should be out of the top 10 right now, and I think Kirk Cousins should be in there.
Yeah.
Granted, almost 4,000 yards for Derek Carr, but they're trailing in almost every single game.
Yeah.
They're not running the ball. They're not running their offense the right way. And that falls on Derek Carr.
Yeah. Joe Burrow.
Again, another struggle with turnovers. This man is the same thing, 19 turnovers. But again, you were looking at all these guys outside the top 5. I can't wait to see the top 5. Let's move on. We go to Josh Allen. He's at 18 turnovers. I mean, 28 touchdowns, 3,500 yards. Again, great 7 yards per attempt. I mean, that's good numbers, and hence why he's not number 1. But at the same, if he was number 1, if that wasn't 18 turnovers, then that'd be 4 or 5.
Yeah. Matthew Stafford.
Only 12 turnovers. I mean, 9 interceptions, with the 33. But again, obviously, they are stacked around him. Their offensive line, one of the best in the league. A great running game. Stafford just playing that offense the right way. Continue to move on. Hence why he's in top 5.
Justin Herbert.
1 fumble on the year. That's pretty key.
That is. And I mean, it's not like he doesn't rush the ball. 268 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yep. To
have 1 fumble, that's impressive.
And 30 passing touchdowns, the 11 is. It's a reason why he's a top 5 quarterback right now as opposed to being a top 10. Because look at the top 10 guys. They all got 20 turnovers. This guy's sitting at just over 12.
I would love to know how many times he's been sacked this year.
No, it's probably been a decent amount, too. 100%.
And I mean, to only have 1 fumble.
But to know when to curl up the ball and find a way.
Kyler Murray, 19 turnovers, though. 10 fumbles, this guy.
I think it's only because of his rushing yards and whatnot. I mean, probably shouldn't be a top 5 player right now. I think,
Justin Herbert has 1 more rushing yard.
Yeah, but Herbert's played every game so far. Kyler Murray, obviously, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, this is belonging. I mean, 7 turnovers on the year, 27 touchdowns. The guy is finding a way. He doesn't turn the ball over.
And he hasn't had Devontae Adams.
And they're probably running
the
football. They're probably throwing the football more than anyone. But obviously, Aaron Jones playing great, Dylan playing great. They're running the football the right way. And Aaron Rodgers, again, just like what I said with Stafford, same standpoint. Just find a way.
And then number 1.
Obviously, Tom Brady. I mean, the 13 turnovers is still okay, but 36 touchdowns will answer that. He's already got 4,000 passing yards. He's been incredible. 2 rushing touchdowns, probably 1-yard sneaks both ways. Obviously, Tom Brady deserving to be number 1. Aaron Rodgers deserving to be number 2. The other quarterbacks that we talk about all struggle with turnovers. I mean, if Tom Brady had 9 fumbles like the rest of the guys in the top 10, then we'd be looking at almost 20 turnovers as opposed to everyone else. And the reason why these guys are the top 5 is because they know how to protect the ball.
Yeah. And you know what?
Aside from Kyler Murray, he needs to protect the ball better, too.
Yeah. I like the way that they ranked the quarterbacks this week. Because the last time we did it, we had a lot of questionable ones that they had there. So, I mean, that was head scratching. But now we move on. Before we end the show here, our power rankings through week 14. You start with your number 10.
My number 10, I'm going with the 49ers. I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs. Again, they were a question between them and the Washington Redskins at who I liked at number 10. These are both two well-rounded teams. Obviously, I think Washington losing some key guys being the difference there. But I think the 49ers are one of the best teams in this league. I think they do find ways to get big chunk plays. They are a threat every time they're out there. They're not a team you want to go up against any day of the week. And if that's the kind of demeanor that they're bringing along, they definitely are a top 10 team in my book.
By the way, before we move on, Justin Herbert is 12th in times he was sacked. It's 27 times. Number 1 is Joe Burrow. And then we go to...
But look at the trend. If you were to go look at the trend at all the guys in the top part of that, I guarantee you a lot of them are the running quarterbacks. And you know why it's a big issue? It's because you cannot block for a quarterback that's going to easily leave the pocket all the time. It's a big reason why Kyler Murray's probably been sacked a lot, a big reason why Lamar Jackson's been sacked a lot. Think about it. You're an offensive lineman. Your back is to your quarterback. He's expected to be in a pocket.
Yeah.
And he's leaving that pocket. And defenders can see when he leaves the pocket, and you honestly can. So it becomes a very difficult standpoint to try to block for these kind of quarterbacks. So, unfortunately, if you look at the trend, I guarantee you're going to see a lot of guys who run the football a lot or someone that just tries to. And it's funny because you would think a concept like that would, he runs it a lot. It's probably hard to sack him. It becomes easier.
Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Derek Carr, Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, Zach Wilson, Tyler Heineke, Justin Herbert. Those are the top 12.
Yeah, you got a couple of running guys, but you got a lot of guys that stand like stills. I mean, obviously Ben Roethlisberger will be up there. He can't move.
Kyler Murray has been sacked 23 times.
Yeah, I mean, it just becomes... And then
23 times and 10 fumbles.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's a little scary.
That is scary. That means they're not sacked fumbles, because those you can understand. But, with San Fran, I think... definitely a top 10 team. One of the best out there. There's no doubt about it.
My number 10 team is the Los Angeles Chargers. And the reason I have them, I like them in the top 10, but they're really on the border for me because they're a team that just, to me, is very inconsistent. You see them one week that they look, and I really haven't changed my mind on Los Angeles since we did our last power rankings. They're a team it's a flip-flop. It's like, all right, well, what team are we going to get this year, this week? Are we going to get, the MVP type, quarterbacking from Justin Herbert and the team looking great? Or are we going to get the head-scratching Justin Herbert where he threw a pick that we're like, where are you throwing? So that's the only reason why I have them at number 10.
Yeah, no, for number 9 for me, I'm going with obviously the New England Patriots. They have deserved to get themselves in the top 10. They have played great football. They have managed around a rookie quarterback unbelievably, to be honest. It's been beyond belief. Credit Bill Belichick, a big reason why this team deserves to be a top 10 in my book.
My number 9 is the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm obviously not as high as you are on them. And it's really the only reason why is because
I I had them in my top 10. I was like, look at me. All right, they're in there, right?
The reason why, it's just they're 7-6 so far. Are they going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs? Absolutely. The way that they play the way they play football is perfect for a team that, just can wreck everybody's playoffs. But to me right now, it's kind of like they're on the border, really. And that's the only reason why I have them so low is because, they could possibly not make the playoffs. They're not even number 1 in their division. Yeah. So that's my issue with Indianapolis.
I think it changes as the season progresses, Of course. I mean, I'm going with the Chargers at number 8. Chargers have shown every reason why they're a top 10 team. They have it on both sides, offense, defense. Obviously, they're not turning it over. Justin Herbert playing MVP style right now. They have every reason to be in the top 10.
Number 8, Tennessee, I have just ahead of Indianapolis because they're ahead of Indianapolis in the standings. But they're a team that There's no Derrick Henry. They're hoping to get Derrick Henry.
You're Tennessee. I mean, we basically have the same teams in both of our top 10s. And the only difference is me at number 7, I have the Buffalo Bills, and obviously his Buffalo Bills are the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
For the Bills, for me, they barely lost to New England in a game where it was impossible to throw the football. I think in a game where actually the conditions are a lot easier, I think you got to give the edge to Buffalo there. I don't see Buffalo losing to this team. Hence, without... honestly, it was almost close to 40-mile-per-hour winds in that game. It was ridiculous. But Buffalo, obviously, not playing well. But I'm not one of those that if a team's not playing well, I'm going to really fall off them. There were times this year where even San Fran wasn't playing well, and Kansas City wasn't playing well. I still had them in my top 10.
What about Dallas then?
Oh, yeah, no, Dallas wasn't playing well. But Dallas, look, they were right in the middle of it. Do I have Dallas?
You don't even have Dallas in the top 10.
Oh, God, I don't. Look at that. I should probably have them in the top 10.
You probably should.
But I don't.
But that is my number. What are we at? 6?
Mm-hmm.
Number 7? No, number 6. No, 10, 9, 8,
You're
7. Yeah,
You have
this
Dallas
is
there.
my 7.
No, understandable. Dallas went from 1 to 7. Dallas went from 1 to 7. He's questioning why I don't have him in my top 10.
Listen. When we did that in what? Week 7 or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was right after you played everybody in your division once, so that must have been tough. No, but obviously, Dallas has every right to be in the top 10 as well. I agree with you 100%. They probably should be a 10-1A for me. Obviously at this rate, they are a good team.
The issue right now with Dallas, and I probably would have had them higher if Dak was playing better. Mm-hmm. And right now, the defense is playing well, but Dak's not playing well, and it's a little discomforting.
As they get their defense more and more healthy, I think Dallas becomes more and more a threat as we get closer along. But after Buffalo and you have Dallas, obviously, at number 6 for me, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs playing great football. I don't know if they still have everything figured out yet. We're going to find out tonight. This will be a good game, a good challenge them against the Chargers. I expect a great game, back and forth the entire time, and nothing short.
My number 6 team is going to be Los Angeles Rams. Big difference between me and you.
Yeah.
But to me, the
big
Rams, I feel like they're a little overrated.
I just don't see it. They're just that good.
I just don't see it because they.
They just lost. They just beat Arizona shorthanded, and
I'm not high on Arizona either.
You
I'm
are
higher.
You got them on 4.
Yeah. I
got them at 5 right now. I have them right ahead of Kansas City. Obviously, Arizona.
I'm not
struggled.
high on Arizona.
I know they struggled, but look at Kyle Murray. We talked about it, 23 sacks, 10 fumbles. They need to protect the ball better.
Yeah.
They protect the ball better. They're going to be a better team.
Well, now especially
losing Hopkins. That becomes a big loss.
Yeah.
And obviously, them having him the other night and still losing becomes a continuous thing.
Yes. Yeah, so my 5 team is New England. New England, I could see even being the top team in the AFC, but Kansas City's finding their stride. But New England's going to be a tough team if they don't turn the ball over like they've been, if they play good defense like they've been, if they run the ball like they've been. This team has a recipe to be the top team in the AFC. So I have them at number 5. I have them right there. They in my top 10, they are the second best AFC team.
I agree.
So that's why I have New England at number 5.
Well, the best teams in it. But no, I have Tampa next. You got Tampa 3.
Yes.
So for Tampa, for both of us, we both have them as top 5 teams. Tampa is a great team. I don't know. I mean, having Green Bay ahead of them is like a 1-1A. I think Green Bay is getting more healthier, especially on the defensive side. I think once Green Bay gets their defense back, they're going to be like in full throttle. And I'll be honest, a game that I'll be looking forward to would be a Tampa Bay and Green Bay matchup. Yeah. That would be incredible. And all these games are important right now.
Where does that play?
Exactly. It's a big difference of playing it in Tampa Bay, Florida, and in Green Bay. So
I think it benefits. It doesn't benefit either one of the teams to play in Tampa Bay. No,
I think they both lean on passing games. But I think, honestly, I'll give the edge to Green Bay's running game. The only reason I have them ahead of Tampa right now, and it's by a slight.
They don't even have Aaron Jones.
It's by a slight.
A.J. Dillon's been playing well.
The two of them even together have been playing very, very well. For me, at number 3, I went with the Indianapolis Colts. He's got Arizona at 4. There's the little mix-up of us right now because you had Tampa at 3. My 3 team is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have been playing great football. They're running the ball better than any other team in the NFL. By far the best rushing attack of any other football team. A big reason why I have them in my top 3. Obviously, there's still question marks there, obviously, with Carson Wentz. But I think, like we said earlier, with him having Frank Wright and all that, it should be a big plus for Indy, and I expect them to continue to win games.
Yeah, as you said, my number 3 is Tampa Bay. And that's
where I had him at 4.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really just we're looking at one.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We flip flop with everything here in the top 5. But yeah, I have Tampa Bay because I feel like they're finding their stride. As I said with Kansas City, they're finding their stride, and they won the Super Bowl last year. They're a team, and they haven't really changed much.
Nope.
They added Richard Sherman.
Yep.
So they haven't really changed.
His first interception the other day too, as well.
So to me, there's really no change, and I feel like they should be, as they're finding their stride, they should be in the top 3, and I have them number 3.
Well, hands down, number 2, we both agree with this one. The Green Bay Packers. They've been playing great football. Aaron Rodgers, like we talked about, he's number 2 ranked on the quarterback rankings for a reason. He is the MVP of the NFL right now. He has been playing incredible all season long. There have been other things off the field that have almost clouded in what he's done on the field.
Yeah, but you know what?
Personally, we're a show that reflects on things that are done on the field and the nonsense that goes on outside the field. And we're both dealing with it as well.
That might have been perfect for him, though.
No, of course.
Because
but
there's been the question of, like, well, should Green Bay bring him back? And then,
now
he
it's
puts in
else for them to talk about.
Exactly.
Of course, actually, you know what? Honestly, in a good standpoint, that makes good sense. But obviously, Green Bay thriving on the football field. Aaron Rodgers, the leader of the pack, literally. Obviously, he continues to be an incredible player. He's been for the last couple of years. And at number 1 for me, I went with the Los Angeles Rams. He's got the Kansas City Chiefs, which could potentially be, the Super Bowl matchup this year. For me, the Rams, I don't see them as an overrated team. I think they continue to play well. They have a great team, great setup. Arizona's a great team. They really did play a great job against them the other day. And being able to stop Kyler Murray the way they were able to is a big plus for any Rams fan right now. The real question was defense, and right now there's no questioning on both sides of the field. This team is ready to win. Yeah,
I have Kansas City number 1 mainly not because of their offense. We know that their offense is going to be as great as it always been. They just need to find their mojo. But for me, I have them at number 1 because of their defense. Their defense has changed so much in the last 7 games, and as I said earlier, 10 points allowed in the average 10 points allowed in the last.
This will be a real test for them
games.
tonight. I mean, honestly, it really come down to whether or not they can take care of the Chargers. They can take care of the Chargers.
Well, they lost to the Chargers the last time, right?
Well, I believe. I mean, honestly, what I see coming is if the Chargers lose this game tonight to Kansas City, Chargers go out of my top 10. Dallas comes on in, and obviously, if the Chiefs are able to not take care of business tonight, then the Chiefs really are in a standpoint where they potentially could have some troubles come playoff time, and that Colt game could be a big one.
All right, here we go. Right before we get out of here. Week 15 expectations. I'll give mine. Chiefs continue to show their recent dominance. They win tonight. And New England will officially show the rest of the league they are for real. I like New England this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. I think Devontae Parker has a great game. Jalen Waddle just got told he's got COVID-19 this
There's a lot of
Sunday.
COVID going around.
I think
in the
Devontae
NFL.
Parker becomes a really good play in daily fantasy football. That's definitely an opinion of mine as well. And for me, honestly, tonight's game, I think Kansas City takes care of business again. I'm just on the same boat as you. I think this is a tough matchup for them, but I think they really come guns blazing. And I think this game becomes a very exciting one tonight, and probably one of the best games of the season so far.
That will do it for Running Up the Score. Nice long show.
Sorry.
This was a good one. No, I
took a break.
Listen. But that will do it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Be breezy.
And it is all over!
You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on Sports Radio. For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.